So you've decided a disaster recovery loan is right for you, but you don't know how to fill out the form. Stay tuned and this video will walk you through line by line. So this is where we're going to go to do a 7B loan. And how did I get there? I went to Google and I typed SBA disaster loans. And then I said enter. That brought us here to this page. It's pretty obvious. We're going to go to right here, coronavirus EIDL loan, which is where the EIDL that we hear people talk about comes from. That's the 7B. It's only 5 pages, and if you have all your information together, this process does not take that long. I'm going to make up fake numbers, and then we're not going to submit it, but I'm going to have to put fake stuff in there to get you guys through this. And if you get lost, don't worry about it. I will be posting this to YouTube and Facebook probably tomorrow, and you can slow roll it to go through every step if we need to. But for most of my clients, most of you guys watching, you're going to be a business with not more than 500 employees, or you're going to be a sole prop with no employees. So no illegal activity, no delinquents on child support, no farming, no sex shops, no gambling, or at least not a third more gambling. You can't be a lobbyist, and you can't be a state government. So that should cover just about everybody that's watching and that we work with. And then you hit continue. At this point, we have to put in your business name, test business, and a trade name. For most of you, it's the same thing, but some of you may be SBC Investments doing business as Dairy Queen, and so your trade name may be Dairy Queen, but for most of you, it's just going to be the same name. You have to put in your EIN or your social. I do believe you have to put your spaces in appropriately. So if you're a business, you're going to put in nope, never mind. It's just going to let you put in the numbers all together. So they should be 9. Organizational type, look at this and it'll depend on you. Most of you are going to be limited liability companies, sole proprietorships, or S corps. If not, choose the one that makes the most sense for your business, and that's it. Is the applicant a nonprofit? No. Most of you are not a franchise. This part is where you're going to have to rely on either maybe your tax return, maybe us, maybe you do your own books, but you're going to put in your last 12 months revenue. So let's just say you did $500,000, take those back, and then cost of goods sold. So I actually checked with SBA on this myself yesterday, because what it has is it has cost of goods sold. Nowhere in there does it ask about the rest of your operating expenses. And when I talked to her, she said her and her colleague had been discussing the same thing. Her assumption was, like I was saying earlier, is that this is mostly designed to see if you qualify for the $10,000 grant. The rest of this stuff will be sorted out once you get assigned to a caseworker, and at that point, you're going to do the rest of the paperwork and give them the rest of the details. So for a lot of clients, you may not have any cost of goods sold, or maybe let's just say your materials, if you're a builder for the year, were $100,000. Rental properties, that's not going to apply for most of you. You're not a nonprofit. This here, it seems like that's your operating expenses, but when you get to the end of it, it's secular, social-based, or faith. That's churches, things like that. So for most of you guys, there's nothing going in there, nothing going in secular social services provided by a faith-based entity. I assume most of you, the answer is going to be blank here, because you won't have compensation as a result of a disaster. and then you're going to put in your address. So I'll just use our business address. And because I struggle, I'm going to make caps lock because I'm doing tax returns for so long. Jackson County, 64063, business phone. And a point here is anywhere that you see an asterisk, that's a field you have to fill out, and you have to fill it out the way they want it. If you don't fill it out, it's not going to let you go to the next page. Business email. I will tell you right now, if you're trying to get quick assistance, you may be better off with front desk at Paget KC than Doug because, well, I'm just getting slayed right now, but I'm doing the best I can to keep up. So please continue to be patient. I'm doing the best I can to help you guys. The date the business was established. If you don't know exactly, do your best guess. If you are a C Corp, an S Corp, a partnership, look at the front page of your tax return. Let's make sure everything says the same thing. It will say on the front of your tax return the date the entity started. Use that date, because the last thing you want to do is trigger a question where they say they don't match. So look at your tax return. Let's keep things the same, because we don't want to create additional work to try to prove when you started your business. So we're just going to say 01/01/2019 let's do 18 for purposes of this. Current ownership, for most of you, it's the same thing. But if you bought out another business, I'll make sure we get the numbers in there the way they want them. If you bought out a business, once again, look at the tax return. It should show when the business started. That's the first one. The second one would be when you bought the business. And then business activity. Go in here, find the one that matches you. For instance, us, I believe it was finance and then accounting. If your business, for instance, was construction, you would then come down here and say one of these. If it's not a perfect fit, that's okay. Pick the one that's closest. Don't get hung up in it's not exactly me. Let's just pick one that's closest. So we're going to say we're a house remodeler. A number of employees as of January 31st. And this is why I think the payroll records are going to be required through January 31st. Although I hope they let us do calendar, but we'll just have to wait and see. So we're going to say 8 for purposes of this. And if I got everything in right, we say next. And we did. So we're good there. So you see we're already halfway through. This one here, is your business owned by a business entity? For most of you, that answer is no. But if you have one business, a corporation or LLC that actually does in fact own another business, that's what this is talking about. For most of us, it's Doug Burson owns DSB Services, so it's not another business. That's what that's asking. All right, so then you just put in your name. If you're like me, put in your actual legal name so you don't end up with matching issues. Use your phone number, your title. Most of you are going to most likely be an owner. I don't think the other ones are all that relevant. Don't get hung up on that. Your ownership percentage, you know how much you own. And then your email address. Again, for a lot of you, it will be the same. But for some of you, it may not. Just do whatever the right answer is there. Your social, you thought I was going to give it away, didn't you? And your birthday. I don't care. I'm getting old. That's my birthday. But we're not going to do that on the internet. So we're going to say I'm even older, because that's what people say I look like. And then you have to put your city and state that you were born in. So we're going to say, for purposes of this, Lee Summit, Missouri, and you do have to be a U.S. citizen, and then your actual address. And this is your home address, not your business. But for purposes of this demo, I'm going to use the same one. Don't need any stalkers. Now, if you have more than one owner in there, I think the threshold is 20%. If they own more than 20%, you have to put each owner in with all the same information. If you just have one of you, then that's obviously pretty clear. As far as how they're going to, I've got a question here as far as full-time equivalents and how they're going to calculate that. I wish I had an answer. At this point, I have not seen guidance on how they're going to calculate the FTEs, but that will be something once I have it, I will share, because that's going to be very important as we work on how to make sure that we get this loan forgiven on the 7A. Right now, we're doing the 7B, so let's make sure we keep this separate. The SBA website is the 7B and that $10,000 grant. The 7A that we talked about earlier will be with the banks, and that's for the payroll. Additional info, we're really almost done with this thing. Have you had a criminal offense? Federal grant or loan go bad? Have you been indicted, etc.? Hopefully that's no for all of you. And then for most of you, you're going to skip this section. If you're paying somebody or not paying somebody, but paying somebody who you're relying on, or not paying, you're having somebody that you're relying on help you with this, then they would need to put this information in there, because then you would then say yes and give them permission to talk to the SBA on your behalf to help expedite. So if you want to do this part just to get it done and then have me help on the backside, you can go ahead and put this in and give permission for them to talk to me. I'm okay with that. Just let me know you did it, because I'm going to need you to give me permission to talk to them on your behalf. I can't rely on somebody calling saying, hey, they want me to talk to you. So let me know you've done this. And then one of the biggest parts of this one is, excuse me, you got to check this box that you want the advance of 10 grand, and you have to tell them what bank you want it to go into. So then you just put in your, make sure you pay attention to this. It's account number first, routing number second. I'm used to doing routing number first and account number second, but it's routing number second, account number first. And a routing number is the one on the check that's between the two things that look kind of like a semicolon, and it's always 9 digits long. Routing numbers have to be 9 digits. Your account number will generally be the other number at the bottom of your checking account. If you're not sure, just check with your bank, but that's how you can get through this. So our account number and our routing number has to be 9 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. At which point, then I cannot go any further, but what will happen is if I say this and then I say next, you will then get a summary that shows everything we just did. My recommendation is, if you do this yourself, review that carefully, make sure you've got everything right, and then print it so that you have a copy of what you submitted. Once you do that, from what I've seen so far, within a half hour, you're going to get something back from SBA saying, thank you for your application. It will look like this. You're going to get an email back that says how much they love you and how much they want to give you money. And they will let you know once they get through it. This will be the email that you will receive, and you will know at that point that you've submitted it and it is now in process. But once again, this is just the beginning of how to get the grant. Once it goes past that 10,000, we're then going to have to give them a lot more paperwork, I'm sure, to see if you qualify for the 7B. What if you don't need 10,000? Is it okay to give it to me? No, if you don't need it, then don't apply for it. really, this is designed to help those who need it and are trying to keep their businesses afloat and keep their employees paid and to get through this crisis. I'm assuming if you go through the process, they're going to tell you you don't qualify because you haven't been impacted. Since none of us has actually been through the entire process, I don't know how they're going to judge it, but ethically, if you really don't need it, let's save it for those who do. I guess that would be my canned answer. And you may need half of that. I would say tell the caseworker that. Say, look, I don't need it. And if they say, well, you got to take 10, then you did your part. But just tell the caseworker, I don't need that. And if you have to take 10 and you don't, I don't know, use the 5,000 to help somebody that you do know needs it, I guess. I did not receive anything when I did it yesterday. Should I reapply? That, woof. If you're using all the same ID numbers and you know you got your email address in right, first, especially if it's Gmail, check your trash box. Gmail spam filters a lot, especially when it's of a financial nature. They're trying to protect you, but they block a lot. We experience that a lot in our business. So check your trash first. And then if there's nothing there, there's really no way to communicate with them. I would say, I guess, go ahead and reapply. The worst thing that'll happen is you'll get 2 people call and you'll say, hey, I've already got somebody working on this, please purge it. Last week, we did some with some people and got it in before their site crashed. When I went in there yesterday, it specifically says, if you've already done this on the old system, in order to be eligible to get the 10,000, you have to reapply. So if you did this last week and you're trying to get in line for this $10,000 grant, you're going to have to go through this process again, because last week you had to create a user ID, a password, you had to upload 4506s, tax returns, all kinds of stuff. This is a streamlined process, a new process for the grant. You're going to have to refill it out. And that's why I think, part of why I think once we get through this, we're still going to have to get all this paperwork together to get the 7B loan, and eventually I think even to justify the 7A loan. And I believe that was all I had put together. The 7A, as soon as I have stuff that I can get follow through and feel good about, because I'm really trying not to be a part of the rumor mill. I'm trying to give you stuff that I believe that I can support and back up. Once I have solid information on the 7A, which at this point I think most of us are going to end up doing a 7B and a 7A. I think that's what's really going to happen for most businesses. I'll get that out to you as quick as I can. As for what this slide says, if you think this is helpful, share it. I like it. It'll help us help a lot of people, because I don't care whether they're paying me or not. If we get as many businesses as we can through this, the economy is going to be stronger. You're going to do better. I'm going to do better. So, I mean, it's free. Give it away. I don't care. Let's help as many as we can. Any other questions? Hopefully it was useful, helpful. I'll give it about a minute or so, and then if nobody else has anything they want to talk about, we'll wrap it up and let you guys get back to your families. And if I stink, don't tell me. Cost of goods sold the same as income? No. So in a lot of businesses, what you'll have is your revenue. That's what you charge your clients. Think of I guess a simple example would be a contractor who's building a deck. His gross is what he charges the client. The cost of goods sold would be when he went to Home Depot and picked up a load of lumber to build that deck and the concrete. The lumber and the concrete would be his cost of goods sold. So that would be an example of cost of goods sold. The other expenses, fuel, supplies, office expenses, rent, utilities, those are operating expenses, and there's nowhere on this Streamline app for you to put that information. And I verified that, like I said earlier, with the SBA. She thinks that's going to be something we're going to get with our caseworker on after we get through phase 1 of this process.